FuturePrint virtual summit session about industrial integration. In the next hour, I will be joined by industry experts Jeremy Spencer, Shazad Khan, and Holly Steedman. We will discuss the various challenges and solutions that our industry has to offer. My name is Roland Biebans, and I will be hosting this FuturePrint session on industrial integration. Jeremy will explain how global graphics software is taking care of pre-production data delivery. Shazad will explain how NTS manages the complexities in engineering, integration, and assembly of industrial printing systems. And finally, Holly will dive into the necessity of early cooperation with development partners, such as integration technology, in order to catch possible difficulties early on. We, as Elements, are dealing with integrations on a daily basis. Our clients are manufacturers, integrators, and print production companies that search for new technology or integrations that allow them to serve their end users better. This mostly revolves around the core combination of ink and printhead. We deliver proofs of concept, we make sample prints, we conduct research, and we try to solve complex challenges for integration of print, of color management, system design, and practical print production. The next hour is a showcase of the complexity and challenges in industrial integration. Thank you for watching this virtual summit session. Let's welcome our speakers. So for the first session in our industrial integration session, I'm going to welcome Jeremy Spencer of Global Graphics Software. He's the Vice President of Business Development. Welcome, Jeremy.
Thank you, Roland, for inviting us along, and Marcus and Fraser for putting the event in place. Great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So you've been in this industry for quite some time now. You've been at Zaar before, and you held a position at Caldera. So you have been working on integration of software and technology in the printing industry for quite some time. Can you do a little introduction to yourself, but also to Global Graphics Software as a company?
Yeah. Thank you, Roland. So I've been in the printing industry for 28 years, and all the way from actually a production print environment through to technology, and then technology is where my heart is, really. Global Graphics, fits in well with that because they are a technology company and they provide software building blocks to printer OEMs for all different types of print applications, from textile to commercial print, direct to shape, wide format graphics, you name it, we have building blocks in place.
Right. Yeah, because I know Global Graphics Software from the Harlequin RIP from my early days. You are focusing on mainly software building blocks that are being used in integration projects, right?
That's correct. So our building blocks are at the deepest part of an integration project. So we have RIP engine SDKs, we have screening engine SDKs, and we also have an SDK called Mako, which is further upstream in the workflow for creating print-ready PDFs. But you're right, the building blocks and RIP and screening specifically can sit in the actual print engine itself, and gives the control of the data throughput to the OEM at the OEM level.
Right. Okay. So you're operating in different market segments, I would assume. So it is available to more than just one typical type of customer or one typical type of segment. Can you elaborate a little bit on where your solutions can be found?
Sure. So to elaborate on that, we have, for example, in the label industry and packaging industry, you might find a customer who is doing variable data, as well as high-speed screening and streaming lots of data to the electronics. And our technology is scalable so that you can add as much horsepower as you need for different applications. And you can also call on the APIs within the SDK for the features and functionality that you require as an OEM specific to your application. Whereas a textile or a decor OEM might not need or require variable data, so equally they can scale their solutions back.
You have a certain expertise in this, and you've been putting those expertise fields into the various building blocks. Can you explain to us what that expertise is, what those building blocks are?
Yeah, so Harlequin and Global Graphics have been a brand that's been around for nearly 30 years. And the Harlequin RIP is a well-known RIP engine, and a few of our team represent the company at the PDF associations and so on and so forth. So if you're looking for a quality RIP that's industry standard, let's say, then Harlequin is certainly a brand that is up there. Right. So what we've done more recently is we've taken the screening engine and separated the screening engine, as we've seen our OEMs want to take control of the screening actually on the print engine itself rather than at the workload level. So now we have solutions that rip and screen, or we have solutions that rip and then screen. And the benefit to that, Roland, is that if you wanted to take our screening engine and our screening patterns to mitigate certain print artifacts and banding and high frequency, low frequency challenges within the print engine, then you can do that, and you can take continuous tone from other workflows. So we don't have to replace the entire workflow. We can be inserted and retrofitted to a project. And the whole idea is enhancing the print quality. That's that final polish with Screen Pro and Print Flat that gets the project to market faster than redeveloping hardware and finding hardware solutions when you can do it with software.
Yeah. So you're actually saying next to Harlequin as a building block being a RIP, you have a Print Flat as a building block. Then you have you pronounce it Mako as building block.
Yeah. So if we're looking at the workflow and we're looking at from the data path system, you would have Mako at the workflow level, where the PDFs are being created, the variable data content is being put together, and creating print-ready, optimized PDFs. And then you might find a RIP workflow which contains Harlequin, for example, and there's quite a few out there, which rasters and does all the color management. It creates the contone, the continuous tone data that a screening engine would screen and then send TIFFs to the electronics. And Print Flat sits next to the screening engine, which is Screen Pro. Right.
So we're talking about integration in industrial settings. You have those building blocks. You can make them available to system integrators and OEMs. How does this typically work? Do you have a practical example or a use case example of how this works?
We've got many examples, Roland. So the way that we engage with our OEMs is slightly different to many others, where we have a technical services team who run breakthrough projects. So an OEM might come to us and said, right, we've got a high frequency drop issue with deviating nozzles that we need to fix, or we've got a low frequency banding that we need to fix, and we've got some other print artifacts that we want to mitigate. So we would deploy our technical services team with a breakthrough project to look at those challenges individually. And then we would look at how their current data path is working and how it needs to work to allow ScreenPro and PrintFlat to take control of those particular problems.
Okay. Is that available in any type of workflow? Are there requirements or limitations? So, for instance, is it only for high volume single pass, or is it also for, let's say, lower speed scanning systems?
No, it's available for all workflows. As long as you can provide ScreenPro engine with a continuous tone image that's pre-rastered, we can take that and we can screen it, apply the compensation required for the low frequency branding, what we call uniformity, so a uniformity calibration, and then send it to the electronics. So the key factor is getting the continuous tone data.
Right. Okay.
In that workflow.
So the biggest benefit then for let's say your end customer, which of course is a print service provider, it lies within the fact that they can go to their system integrator or to their own technical team that will build that sort of industrial integration. And then you hop on as a trusted partner to deliver the whole data path, screening, ripping, color management systems to be built in, right?
Correct. We can offer SDKs for each of those key areas. With ScreenPro and PrintFlat, what we do is we're providing a technology that enables the OEM to better utilize the hardware by not pushing the hardware to the breaking point. If we can fix those issues with software, then you create a more stable environment. So, for example, if you're playing with the voltage offsets to balance a print head and remove the smile or the frown, as some people refer to it, you create drop velocity challenges, and then you create an unstable environment. If you can bring all that back down to a reasonable level and then apply PrintFlat on top of it, you get to your end goal of smooth, uniform print without pushing the hardware to its limits. And we've got quite a few use cases available on YouTube. If you go to YouTube, you can see our integration and the work we did with a company called Hold, which is a great video, and it really demonstrates how we took it from a product that was unsaleable to a product that was saleable, with a nice flat tints and great vignettes.
Right. So later on in the session, I will speak with Shazad Khan at NTS and with Holly Steedman at ITL. Is it safe to say that if people use these companies or work with these companies to do these kinds of integrations, that you easily connect with a company like NTS that is then doing the full assembly and engineering?
Often these challenges aren't just one component, Roland. They come in from different places, and it's a combination of effort from the ink provider, the material provider, and the drying or curing technique that optimizes the print quality. So we are a component in that ecosystem of creating quality. So often with a breakthrough project, with technical services, we will engage with other third-party companies that the OEM or the integrator is working with to see, how we can take their information and now how we can provide our information to create that, that optimized view.
So, getting at the end of this session now, is there something that you would sort of propose as a key takeaway for the audience?
So yeah, I would say, Roland, that Global Graphics are the go-to people to supply RIP and screening engines that can eliminate quality challenges and with screen prime print flags.
Okay, all right. Well, I think we had a nice look into what you deliver. I hope to see you back at the end with a panel wrap-up session, if time permits. If not, I would like to thank you now already for your time and your insights.
Thank you, Roland.
So my next guest is Shahzad Khan. He's the strategic business developer at NTS in the Netherlands. Welcome, Shahzad.
Yeah, thank you, Roland. It's good to be here. And I'd like to thank Marcus and Fraser for giving me this opportunity to speak at this platform.
Okay, yeah, you're more than welcome. Since we're speaking about industrial integration of digital printing solutions, I believe that NTS has a lot of expertise. So it would, I think, only be natural to have you on our session. Could you do an introduction about yourself and about NTS?
Yeah, thanks, Roland. My name is Shahzad Khan, and I'm working at a strategic business developer at NTS. So our company is known for R&D, engineering, and assembling, mostly as a contract partner to OEMs. We deal with high complexity products and a low volume manufacturing. We build systems for companies that need to be reliable, a partner that understands industrial integration. We are headquarters is in Eindhoven in the Netherlands, and we have more than 70 years of experience as a company. And we do have offices in China, Singapore, Europe, and the USA.
Okay. We're in the same city. We're based in Eindhoven. So in the Brainport region, we have come across each other and worked together on some projects. As I understood, you've been working on technology for integration for OEMs. So you build modules and you build integration schemes for partners across the globe. Can you tell me a little bit about the different segments that you offer your services to?
Yeah, we have been involved in various projects in different kind of market segments. We have built systems or modules which can be integrated in an existing line. What we have seen in the last few years, especially in the graphical industry, that there's a need of a system integrator who can build a complete print engine that can be integrated in their workflow. And that's why we are very active in as a partner for doing the complete system integration, where we can cooperate with the printhead supplier, the UV lamp supplier, the electronics supplier, and bring them all together and make a functional system that can be integrated in our customer workflow. And then we are sort of acting as a spider in the web, a single point of contact for our customer, where they can get the complete turnkey solution, which can be integrated in their existing production line.
Okay, all right. So you've been working on your own modules. So you have several of those. And we spoke about NTS now offering a print bar. Can you say a little bit more about the print bar and what it is supposed to do?
Yeah, what we have realized from the market that companies are looking for a black box kind of a solution, a print bar that has a printhead, that has electronics, ink supply system, printhead alignment module, and maintenance module, the whole box that can be easily integrated into a customer machine. And by looking at the different customer requests, we came out with an sort of open and scalable architecture of a print bar that can be scaled in terms of print width. There's a possibility to integrate different printhead types so that on a very short amount of time, we can customize that platform for our customer, that they can have a customized print bar that can be easily integrated in their existing line.
Right. So how did you come up with this? Was this born out of a necessity, or was this because you just wanted to make a print bar, or was this because of certain integration projects that you really needed to come up with such a solution?
Yes, actually, for one of our customer, we were already working to develop a print bar for 1.2 meter wide with a really high-end specification. And based on that project experience, we realized that this architecture can be also suitable to other customer. And based on the different customer requests, we saw there's a nice overlap and matching requirements. So we took that as a basis architecture and improved on it so that we can reuse that architecture for different customer base.
Okay. Is it applicable to all the segments that you work in, or is it really tailored to a certain segment within the industry?
Of course, it depends upon what application. What we have seen that this technology could be very well used for the graphical industry for a single pass printing, for a high-speed printing, high accuracy printing, in the domain from flexible packaging and other areas where there's a need of a single pass printing. And that's where we see more added value of this print bar technology.
Okay. If I get it right, you have everything in place, but for integration projects, you also have to rely on partners. So earlier on, we had a conversation with Jeremy Spencer at Global Graphic Software. So that's sort of the pre stuff that comes before printing. And after our conversation, I will have an interview with Holly Steedman. That is post-print. How do you cope with these integration? What are the challenges and what are your solutions in that?
Yeah, we work closely with curing companies or the drying companies because that's a very essential part if you want to have a good print quality. So we get early involved with these companies to understand how their technology works and how we can integrate those technologies into our integrated print system. And that's how we have key relationship developed with a lot of curing companies and a lot of drying companies, so that if a customer comes to NTS and specify that they would be interested to use such curing unit, then we already have the technology and we know about integration, so we could easily integrate in our solution.
Okay. Do you have a practical example of one of the projects in as far as you can speak about it? Do you have any use case or practical example of a kind of project that you did or where you solved challenges?
Yes, of course, not going into too much detail. We were working for a company which is in the market of flexible packaging, and they wanted to print at extremely high speed, more than 120 meters a minute. And the print width was close to 1.2 meter wide. So printing at that speed also with the water-based ink also means that you have to dry out extremely fast. So we work together with a company that makes specialized drying equipment for water-based ink. And we could integrate that next to our print bar. So in that case, we learned quite a lot about the integration of such technology.
Yeah. From what I've learned from your company, you are doing a lot of precision work. So your media handling and your media transport, is that your specialty, or do you have more specialties that will be beneficial to our industry?
Yeah, we have, of course, the sheet-to-sheet handling of the media is one of our specialty because we have been involved in other projects where we want to print on sheet. So handling of sheet, alignment of the sheet on the substrate table is one of our specialty. The other one is the printing building blocks. So we have actually printing building blocks like cleaning of the printhead, how to do the maintenance capping of the printhead using a contactless way, how to align those printhead with respect to each other, how to drive different kinds of printhead. That's and most importantly, how to develop an ink supply system, which is one of the most essential part within a printer. And we have our own ink supply system, and we reuse that architecture for different projects. So when a customer comes to NTS and he is looking for a specialized equipment, we try to bring all those building blocks together and to create a maximum overlap. In that way, the technical risk for our customer is less because it's already been proven, and also the time to market is a bit short because then we will reuse our building blocks.
Okay. Then to wrap up this portion of this session, do you see any trends in the market? Do you see any very specific requests coming to you? Is there anything that the audience should know or that you'd like to share?
We have seen quite some interest from the packaging sector because last few years, a lot of analog packaging printing companies has been pushed by their customer to print some variable data or continuous variable data or a variable image. So they are looking for a like plug and play solution, which could be integrated in their existing production line. And it could also be interfaced with their software and electrical software so that they can just push on a button and the system knows what has to be printed, when has to be printed, and it prints automatically. So we have seen quite some interest from the packaging sector.
Okay, all right. So for now, I would like to thank you for your insights and input. Later on, we will have a wrap-up session together with Jeremy and Holly. So I'd like to thank you for now, and then I'll see you later on.
Yep, thank you very much, Roland, for your time.
So in this next portion of the industrial integration session, I'm welcoming Holly Steedman. She is doing business development at Integration Technology. Welcome, Holly.
Hi, Roland. Thanks for having me. I'm really grateful to be here on the virtual summit. I'm really excited about the content of the summit and my talk too. So,
all right. Yeah, you're more than welcome, of course. We have you in the session because Integration Technology as a company supplies solutions that are a huge benefit to this industry. Can you tell us a little bit more about your company and yourself?
Yes, sure. Integration Technology are a developer and manufacturer of UV and LED systems. We're well known in the industry, and we're falling under the umbrella from the mother company of IST Merz, which are well known in the UV area. We started with graphic applications, really from our LED lamps and also from our standard UV lamps. And obviously, over the years, with the development of industrial printing, we've had to evolve and provide solutions also for industrial applications. And we pride ourselves on being an innovative company, adaptable company. We can also produce custom systems, which is, integral for industrial printing applications.
Right. So most of what you do then is really focused on supplying UV curing or LED curing.
Yes.
And the most part of what you do is integrating your solution into an entire workflow.
Yeah, so we work with the integrator or the machine builder, and we provide a solution that fits to their application, because obviously it's application dependent. And we can also then customize our systems if necessary. We can make changes which then fit into the system or enable the integration to run more smoothly, or maybe there's a special request or that provides that needed benefit for the application.
If I look at integration cycles, most of the time, some of the technology that has to be integrated is seen almost as an sort of an afterthought. And if I look at where you fit in the whole workflow, then most of the time you come after the printing process. Exactly. And most people will first look at all the bits and pieces of the printing, the media handling, and the print heads, and the ink and data path. So we just had a conversation with Jeremy at Global Graphic Software. He sits in the front, he delivers the data, then it comes into a printing system. And then often, as a sort of afterthought, is, we also need some curing device.
Yeah, we have to dry it, yeah.
Yeah. Is that very common in this industry, that you sort of come in as an afterthought, or?
Yes, it's left too late in the process of planning and designing the system. Like you said, they think about how they get the ink onto the substrate or the coating onto the substrate. They're thinking about print quality from a jetting point of view. These things are all considered long before they're considered, okay, how do we cure this ink, or how do we dry this ink? And that can obviously create problems later in the system. If you don't have adequate space, for example, to integrate the lamp, there could be some issues with the final result of the print quality. If you don't have enough space for the curing delay, for example, you need to be able to adjust, in some applications, the delay of the cure. This is often left to the end of the planning, and that's one of the things that we try to bring forward and bring to the front of people's minds, that it's not just drying the ink. This is an integral part of the system.
Mm-hmm. So in listening to you saying this, then it also means that you've developed your systems in such a way that even if you come as an afterthought, that at least you know for sure that you can really integrate, and you have the opportunities to work with those integration parties. Is there anything that makes you special, or is it some benefits in using your company and your solutions?
We've developed our systems to be very modular.
Mm-hmm.
We like to think of it as a Lego. Think of Lego bricks. They all have a base. You have a standard set of bricks that you can build multiple lamps, for example. And we follow this process because this enables flexibility also, and then also the development of the project. For example, many industrial projects start with someone doing a test system in the lab, and then they go one stage bigger and they move to a test system in their production or pre-production. And this enables them to add the lamps modular and to then change this as the project develops too. And this also then also is very important for the end system, the final system. Maybe they have different print widths that they're going to have on the machine size, for example. And with our system, they can then use the same electronics, the same they can integrate it the same way. Then it's just a case of adding the modules.
Right. Are there any limitations to what you deliver? Are there any limitations when you speak about the amount of energy or the print width or speed, or is there anything that you can't do, or can you build almost made to measure?
For example, obviously there's limitations on the technology itself. Most people, or many people, I should say, would like to have an air-cooled system for simplicity reasons, because then you do not have to have a chiller, water cooling. But this then comes with some disadvantages. For example, the air cooling systems are in themselves, the footprint is bigger because you're having the air-cooled system, the fans, for example. So you lose some flexibility there on the footprint, the size of the lamp. And with the air-cooled systems, there's also comes a limit of the power output. There will be at some point you need to then use the water-cooled system.
Right.
And also with UV and UV LED, there is always some heat. Obviously with LED, that's reduced significantly compared to a standard UV lamp. But there will be some heat. There will need to be some ventilation. So this also has to be thought about in the system.
Yeah, I would say it is obvious, but I can imagine that in a lot of the projects, people first have to see that it works. Do you have examples or use cases that you can explain to the audience so that they can see how you've coped with a certain challenge in such an integration project?
Yes, I mean, one that springs to mind, which really was a new product development. So for us, we had to, start from the very beginning, from the design process. And this was quite a particular application because we needed to be in a lamp curing inside a system that was an inert nitrogen system environment. So we're talking a glove box environment. And there, the system had to be completely sealed to be then IP64 rated. So this was, developing a whole new system, testing against water and dust to reach this rating. And also the lamp could not interact with the environment because this was a controlled environment. So there was many challenges, and we actually developed a new system for that, the SEX system.
Right.
Also there, actually water cooled was an advantage because you couldn't have any airflow inside. So actually water cooled systems was actually the preference.
Right.
And these kind of applications are very particular. We're talking photoelectric cell bonding or semiconductor applications. So very, very particular applications there.
Right. So in this explanation, you give an example of then that a certain technology was created. So this is then also available to others that need this type of technology?
Yes, exactly. This is available then for other applications or other potential partners. We can then use this what we've learned from this and also translate it onto other applications.
Right. Okay. Are there different or other examples of where you found yourself in a spot where you had to come up with a solution that had turned into a new technology or a product that you're really proud of today?
Off the top of my head, that's just one example of the projects. We have, one thing which is slightly not such a full development, but this is also adapting our systems, for example, the location of the cable inlets or the water cooling inlets. This may seem like a small change, but this is obviously some development work behind that because it's not just the way the whole lamp is, you can't just, it's not just chop and change, there has to be a development process to that to make sure that the lamp is still performing the same way. But something just as simple as changing a cable to another angle, to a 90-degree angle, can really significantly change how that's integrated into a print system, or can make a big difference to an integrator. And this is something that we see very regularly, and something that we pride ourselves on being able to make these changes and to be able to react very fast and make these developments for our customers.
Yeah, because I think that if we're going to sort of wrap up this portion of the session, you are, as I can see it, highly specialized in bringing those tailor-made solutions into these larger integration projects.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything sort of at the end of this session that you would like the audience to understand, or that you want to give as a key takeaway?
I think the key takeaway, or the key point, is really that you need to be working with a partner that is flexible and can understand the applications as well. And integration technology, we understand the reality of the applications. We understand these differences in our products can have an effect on the whole solution in the end. And we also pride ourselves with working with our partners very closely, because this is critical. We have to work closely with the printhead suppliers. We have to work closely with the ink manufacturers. All these things need to come together. It's puzzle pieces in the system. And as we discussed also, we are developing new systems. We also developed a HD system, which is 2 rows of LEDs in one head, which again helps the integrators. It reduces the footprint of the lamp. So we're continually making developments, and I think that's the key point with industrial printing. All of the suppliers, we all have to work together and keep making these changes and these developments to keep everyone on track to achieving the same goal, which is bringing industrial printing forward and bringing new technologies forward. For example, bringing Inkjet forward into this to this area, and that's, for me, is the key point.
Right. Okay. So at the end of this panel session, we try to get all the panelists together for a wrap-up. So for now, I would like to thank you for your explanation, and then hopefully, if time permits, I'll see you at the end of the session.
Okay, great, thanks.
With me now are Jeremy, Shazad, and Holly as the panel session wrap-up. Welcome, guys. Thanks for your earlier input and insights into who you are, what you do, and how we can address this market.
Thank you, Roland.
We spoke a little bit about the overlap that you have in integration projects, and Shazad and NTS as a company is sort of in the middle with their print solutions, and they have to rely on everything that happens before and happens after. So Shazad, in those integration projects, you often have to deal with people like Jeremy and Holly, I guess.
Yes, that's correct, Roland, because when a customer comes to NTS and they are looking for a complete integrated solution, which means also pre-processing, printing, and curing. So most of the time, these partners have to work together just to ensure that all the technologies can be integrated into one platform. So what we see that at a very early stage of the project, we start to discuss with the curing company to see whether the ink that is supplied by one of the ink supplier can be cured with that ink or not. And these are very fundamental choice, and this has to work together without any issue. So for us, it's very important that we work together with a curing company and a pre-processing company.
Okay, so Holly, that also means that that goes back into what NTS is asking for. anything from your side let's cut here, because Shazad, you look like a pixelated person. Do you have the same or not?
Well, I don't see it, at least in my screen.
You mean it looks like Wreck-It Ralph?
Yeah.
Maybe I remove my glass. Maybe that's the problem.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or I close this.
No, I thought you just had a sort of a small hiccup. So
Okay.
I was going to Holly, so we'll just start here again. Yeah, so Shazad, you're sort of in the middle. You look at what comes before and after. Holly, do you see the same problems or questions arising?
Yeah, so actually, firstly, I think it's great that NTS considered that very early on in the planning, because that's unfortunately not always the case with machine builders. So I think that's a really great point that they've made there, that they consider that. Which makes obviously our life easier, because we need to know how the ink needs to be cured. We need to know whether there needs to be pinning, if there's an end curing, if there's, for example, a varnish that needs a standard UV lamp and doesn't cure by LED. All these things need to be considered at the beginning, because obviously that has a great bearing on the machine build, from space point of view, integration. So these are the kind of things that we like to discuss at the beginning of the project. But also, one thing also to remember is, especially with complicated single pass industrial applications, is sometimes actually the formulation can change during the process, even after the machine has been built. So I think it's always great if the machine builder can actually add a little bit of leeway, shall we say, or a little bit of flexibility into the curing side, or the way the curing is integrated, because it may mean that they change the formulation for whatever reason, maybe adhesion's not correct or flexibility, and then this has an effect on how the ink cures, and we need a longer cure delay, for example.
Yeah.
So it's always kind of a fine balance. You can specify at the beginning, but I think it's also important that there is some flexibility certainly in these adjustments.
Yeah. How does that reflect back on you, Jeremy? Do you see those things?
I was just about to say, Roland, that that flexibility can be seen with the software. So we can add an element of that flexibility. When Holly has done her piece by the frequency of the curing, and that has been optimized, and Shazad has optimize the material handling system, we can then start to look at the print artifacts that need to be investigated and then mitigated going forward in a reliable with a reliable performance factor. So we can understand the chaining and the mottling issues, and the low frequency banding or tonal challenges that are faced, and then apply uniformity and screening types that can be optimized specific to a machine and its print application.
Yeah. What I see a lot is that it all revolves around the combination of print head and the fluid that is being deposited. I think that's the core of it all, and I think that all three of you have sort of an equal share in solving challenges of those integration.
You're right. It's an ecosystem. It's not just one component. It's we need to work together with the machine integrator and the ink and the curing to get that optimized repeatability and reliability into a device that makes it saleable to the market. And it also gets the machine to market faster.
Yeah.
I said yesterday, it's the puzzle pieces. We have to bring those all together. Those pieces need to come together somehow, and we have to work from all sides, from machine, software, hardware, print head, ink suppliers. It needs to be all of the partners on board in that process.
So going forward in this industry, I think that what we've seen from this session with the three of you is that we spoke about trends and we spoke about technologies. We spoke about all the products that you bring to market to do that kind of an integration. Is there anything that stands out or that you like to reflect on this very moment?
Well, one of the points that we always recommend to our customer is early involvement of all the technologies and the partnership in a one platform, because the solution may not be exactly on our side. Maybe some defects can be taken care at a pre-processing or maybe post-processing. So we have to look at the issue from on a high level and involve all the technological partners very early in the product development.
Yeah, I think that is the truest meaning of that kind of integration processes. Yeah.
I think it's, it's still, there is still some learning curves for everyone, especially in the industrial area. Over the years, I think there's also been a technology imbalance, if you know what I mean. We've had, for example, the print heads, they got faster, smaller drop sizes. This moved forward, but maybe, it took a little bit longer for the software then to move forward and to integrate these new types of print heads or the drive electronics, for example. So my feeling always with the industrial, particularly in the industrial integration, there has been some imbalances on the level of where the different technologies are. And this is something that obviously comes from this, maybe you want to call it, especially for inkjet printing, it was almost, industrial was almost had a startup kind of feel to it. It was new applications, inkjet primarily being used for graphic applications. So it had this very much sort of dynamic sort of feeling to it. And this will take, I think, a little bit of time before we're all on the same level. The lamps are we're increasing the power on the lamps to keep up with the faster speeds that the print heads can now print at. It's kind of coming all together, and it does take a little bit of time, I think.
I agree, Holly, and sometimes software can get overlooked. So don't forget, software is a very powerful method of fixing these issues. Certainly within the screening and when we're looking to optimize performance. So software is a very powerful tool.
Yeah, and there's been great advances in the software side of things. I've seen personally in since I've been working in single pass printing. Even if you're going to color management, color management on a round container or a 3D dimensional part is a completely different completely different kettle of fish, so to say, than printing on a flatbed printer and doing a color profile. These things have all taken also time to develop and evolve with this industry.
Yeah, I think I'd just like to pick up on one key point that Holly states there is the color management. It's true to say that if you have a more uniform print, you then create a more uniform profile and you capture as much of the color space as possible. We have seen projects where certain designs haven't fallen into color space before the uniformity has been done, and then after uniformity and creating new profiles, we've certainly been able to print designs that weren't possible before.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's just one great example of why all these key components come together and the power that software can provide.
Yeah. So unfortunately, we are at the end of the time for this session. We could go on, I think, for yet another few hours.
Yeah, for sure.
I would like to at least thank you very much for your time, for your efforts, and for your insights.
No problem, Roland.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks. I hope that the last hour has brought you insights, information, and inspiration. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the other presentations here at the Virtual Summit, and should you have any questions or remarks, just reach out to us.